Hi, welcome to the Turning the Keys podcast, the place where I will share the insights and tools that have helped me in my journey, and maybe it can help you too or serve you somehow. I am Naira Sultan, and I am glad to be here. Today, I want to share a concept that opened my horizons and made me see the universe from a different perspective. It is the 7 Hermetic Principles. I'm going to introduce you to this concept, but we are not digging deep into it. I'll leave some extra resources on the description of the video if you like to learn more about it. When I was in 5th grade, I had a teacher that introduced me to the band Legião Urbana, which translates as urban legend. And it was my first time listening to them, and I was mesmerized by the lyrics of their songs. And it was the beginning of the internet for us. It was when it became accessible to the working class people. And I remember that one of the first things I ever researched on the internet was this band because I was obsessed with it. I wanted to know more songs about it. And with that, I started to discover new bands and dive into the rock and roll world, which was great because I've learned English by myself. And the main reason for this, it was because I loved rock music and there was a lot of bands that I liked that was singing in English and I wanted to understand what they were singing. So I would search the lyrics and then copy on a notebook with a black pen, and on the next line with a blue pen, I would write the Portuguese translation to that. And that's how I learned English. And it all started with this teacher that introduced me to a band that I loved. I wouldn't have access to the information if it was never presented to me. Because, yes, now we live in a world that is full of information and you can have access to pretty much anything. But the searches started with keywords. And if you don't know those words, how are you supposed to search? And this is my goal here. I will present the idea, the concept, and you will have the keywords that you need to continue to search for this on your own pace with your own searching tools. So go, Pokeball, search it out. Well, the 7 Hermetic Principles or Hermetic Laws has orange on Hermes Trismegistus, and are written on a book called The Kabbalion. So those laws, they describe how the world works in all levels: physical, spiritual, and mental. And the idea is that by understanding and aligning with those laws, you become a master of your reality. Sounds great, huh? And I want to begin saying that I love when people say sharing is caring, because it is, but also sharing is receiving. Because every time you give something to someone or you do something to someone, you receive something in return. And not that you intentionally do something expecting that people will give you back, but it's just because this is one of the Hermetic principles, or specifically the number 6, cause and effect, which means that every action has a reaction. And I was thinking about this because of something that happened to me this week. As I said on the first episode, my intention with this podcast is to share the experiences I had. My spiritual journey has been a wild ride, guys. So I believe I will have something to add in others people's lives. So I was putting time and effort to take this podcast project out of the paper and put into reality. And like everything new that we do, there are some challenges with it. There is a learning curve. There are skills that you need to perfect. And the first episode, I was struggling to export the video. I would get an error when trying to export from my phone or trying to export from the desktop. And everything was supposed to be right. The settings were right. I had enough storage space. But the video will come to 30 something percent on exporting and the app will close. And that started to bother me in a level that became angry. And I've learned that because of some traumas I've experienced, my anger can be really quick to arrive and escalate, right? So I was frustrated with this app. I entered the customer service from the app that I use for this just to check if there was some bug going on, if other users were facing the same issue I was facing. And there were 39 people in front of me waiting to talk to the customer service. So I assumed there was a bug going on. But when my time came, the agent did what customer service people do, which is ask you to clean your cookies and cache and turn your Wi-Fi off and on. The world was not ending. There was not a general bug that everybody was facing. It was apparently a me problem. So I was feeling this anger and I was upset and frustrated. I did all the troubleshooting steps. And before I click on the button again, I thought it's not going to work. And guess what happened? It didn't work. But at that point, this thought hit me differently. And I was like, if I don't think it's going to work, it's not going to work. This is another Hermetic principle. The very first one, the mentalism, that say that all is mind. The universe is mental. And everything that happened has its orange in the mind. So instead of doing the same thing and expect different results, I acknowledged this thought and I was willing to find out where this thought was coming from. And I decided to meditate, which is something that I do often just to ground me and to help me understand things that are not clear. And the second Hermetic principle is the principle of correspondence, meaning as above, so below, as above. Everything that is happening in this third dimension is also happening in another dimension. So when my problem cannot be solved in the material world, it's because it must be solved in the another dimension, in the spiritual world. So I started my meditation, and when I started meditating a few years ago, I would just do it to calm my mind and be able to sleep. But at this point, I actually get messages or visions when I meditate. And I was starting this meditation with the intention to understand why was I blocking this video to be exported. And then it came to me, just a sentence. Everything is difficult to me. And on the same moment the sentence came, it became a question. Why is everything so difficult to me? And the answer I got was, because it's what you wanted. And I was in disbelief for a moment. Like, what? Why would I want everything to be difficult to me? Am I stupid? I don't think so. But I don't know. Those spiritual guides, they were not much into sarcasm. And they said, because you're holding the warrior archetype. And because of it, you believe that you must fight hard because you can only see value on things that you fought to conquer. If something comes easy to you, you just assume that it's meaningless. You want to savor that victory. And the more you fight, more tasteful it feels when you win. It's like winning is not enough. You have to tell this long story on how you've been through hell until you win. And you crave that. You crave that narrative. And to sustain it, you must go to all these difficulties. It gives you a better story at the end, right? But sometimes we need to ask ourselves if you want just a story to tell or if you want to leave that story, to leave our journey and evolve and proceed to the next level. But I feel that most of us are afraid of going to the next level because we don't know what we're going to find there. So it's better to stay in this place that we are already familiar with and keep repeating those patterns than to allow ourselves to write a new story. We just must stay mindful that just because it's easier doesn't mean it's better. And I didn't need to dig very deep to understand where this life is hard thing was coming from because it's everywhere. We hear that from our parents, our coworkers, our friends. People often are thinking about how hard life is. And yes, we are on Earth. This is considered a school planet, so we are here to learn. And learning can be challenging, but I think that we make this harder than what it should be. The fifth Hermetic principle is the principle of rhythm, which means that everything flows and life operates in cycles. But how many people do you know that look stuck? The sun comes up and down, and nothing is going right for this person. And I'm not talking about a phase of your life where things are more challenging and you are struggling with something. We all have that. I'm talking about people that have been in this pattern for years, decades. And I am not here to criticize these people too, because I believe if they are like this, it's because they've been through something major in their lives and resonate with the third Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, which means that everything moves, everything vibrates all the time. But when people go to massive trauma, this event lower their vibration. Nobody's suffering from a trauma and feels excited about it. Get away with this fake positivity. This is not real life. We have ups and downs. And when we are down, we are vibrating in the low vibration. But thank God we have the fourth principle, which is the principle of polarity, which means that everything has two sides. Everything is dual. So if you're vibrating in the frequency of pain, you can transmute that and shift to the opposite side and find healing, pleasure, comfort. The thing is, even though it's not your fault that you've been through this trauma, it is your responsibility to get out. And maybe you're telling yourself this warrior story too, that you have to fight really hard to leave all this pain behind. But the same way I don't have to fight this hard, you don't have to fight this hard. And the first thing we need to do is to let go of this resistance and believe that it can be that easy. Because the more you believe in that, easier it becomes. You just need to rewire your brain and stop flirting with melancholy. And being 100% honest, some people, in order to feel better, must cut some relationships. The seventh Hermetic principle is the principle of gender. And it's not the construction of gender we see in our society, it's about masculine and feminine energy. The masculine energy is active, assertive, logical, analytical. It has the potential to start things, while the feminine energy is receptive, intuitive, nurturing, emotional, creative. We all have both feminine and masculine energy inside of us, and ideally, we will have them balanced. So we will have aspects from each, and we will know when to shift from one to another and apply the required energy to a specific situation. So, for example, if you're going to paint, You can use your masculine energy to analyze what kind of brushes, paint, materials that you need and provide all of that. But when you start to paint, then you tap into your feminine energy, your creativity, your intuition. The problem is some relationships don't allow us to be both. Some relationships have dysfunctional settings, and it's just not possible to be the best version of ourselves and stay there at the same time. We cannot change people, we can only change ourselves and change the vibration that we are on. And sometimes, for us to evolve, we must let go of people who are not intending to be in a higher vibration. And I know it can be difficult, but I'm not saying for you to cut this person forever, right? You just take some space from them so you can heal. And by the time you reconnect, if you ever reconnect, then you will be in a different position. You will have more tools to deal with this and not be dragged down again. I've seen a lot of relationships when people don't want a partner, they want a cheerleader. They want to be put on a pedestal and they feel entitled of being pleased all the time. And those people are a perfect match for the warriors because nothing they ever do will be good enough. And do you want something more difficult than that? More difficult than pleasing somebody with a huge ego all day, every day, fighting for them to stay? If you need to fight to keep someone in your life, this person shouldn't even be there. All those laws are interconnected. And because I've started this podcast, I've been through that annoyance when trying to export a video, which led me to frustration, which led me to the meditation, which led me to the message about being a warrior. And I started to reflect on the other laws in my own story, and I realized that it could be easier, that it could be simpler. But my intuition told me, do this. And I did. I didn't know what to expect, so I ended up not expecting anything. I just focused on sharing and going with the flow with anything that comes with it. I thought about helping people and that bringing me joy. That would be my receiving part of the sharing. But I wasn't expecting this lesson on my very first episode. And I think it's important that I pass it forward. A lot of people ask me, how did I start meditating? And as I said, initially it was just to calm my mind, but I've learned that meditation can be more than that, can be the tool that you use to learn more about yourself. And I want that for you. So before ending this episode, I would like to invite you to do an exercise. You will need a mirror and a device to play music. I will leave some songs as suggestions on the description of this video, but feel free to find whatever resonates with you. Just try to focus on a song that has no lyrics, it's just instrumental. You will play the song and you will look in the mirror and you will look into your eyes. And you can spend some minutes there. And it's common that a lot of thoughts come to your mind. You will let the thoughts come and you will let them flow. Don't focus on any thought that come to your mind. And also don't focus on the idea of avoiding to think. When you see that your mind is flying around, you will just pay attention to your eyes. You don't have to think of anything. Just give this command to your brain. Look into my eyes. And after a few minutes, you will notice that all those thoughts have quieted down, then you will look into your eyes and mentally you're going to ask this question: what am I fighting for? You will let this question echo in your being, and I am positive that you're going to find the answer. And learning what are you fighting for is important because you will likely get one of two results. First, you will see that you're fighting for something completely worth, and you will feel motivated to drop all the distractions that prevent you from getting what you want. And without carrying the weight of the distractions, the fight will become easier. Might not even be a fight anymore. Or you will face scenario 2, where you cannot identify what are you fighting for. That means you're probably a warrior that are fighting just for the sake of fighting, getting tired, feeling drained. For those on the second scenario, you can ask another question. You can look at a mirror and ask, how can I stop? That's all for today, guys. If you like, please follow us so you can know when new episodes comes up. And feel free to share on the comments, what are you fighting for? I would love to read it. Thank you for your time. See you.